All right. Hi, everyone. All right. So in this video, I'm going to show you another way to basically make the box we made in the last video using a little different techniques, talk about some best practices in that process. So I'm going to start making the cube. I'll just, same thing. Again, I'm going to move. I'm going to press D, hold V, move down, move the thing, so the whole cube. I'm going to press X to snap it up. There you go. Cool. So we have our cube. In this case, rather than cutting more geometry into the cube, I'm going to make the lid a separate object. So in order to accommodate for that, I'm going to make a little room. So I'm going to scale this down a little bit. So this would be like the bottom of the box, and now I'm going to make a new cube that I'm going to use for the lid. So we can see right now these cubes, well, let me resize this one at least. If I move it down, it's kind of hard to get it exactly on top of that, but luckily we can do more things with pivot points that help with that. So again, you're going to be getting good at this. Press D to move the pivot point, hold V to snap the pivot point, and I'm going to snap that pivot point to the bottom of this object. Sorry, I just messed up though. All right, hold V, snap it to the bottom of the lid. Now, if I take the object, if I take this thing, the whole lid, I hold V, I can snap the whole object to the other object. So now we have two objects. We got the base and we got the lid. If you go into the outliner, which again, ooh, I should have cleared my history. Let me give me a second. I will show you how to do this in a second, or how to. Okay. Anyway, so now I have two objects here. We can see there's p cube 1, p cube 2. All right, that's in the outliner. Again, this is like the hierarchy of the scene. It shows you all the objects in the scene. So I'm going to take this, and rather than extruding it, now because it's its own object, I can just kind of scale it up a little bit. And there you go. That's a lid. It's a good idea, I think, to have, if you have like an object, imagine the object you're modeling in real life, and if a component of it would be a different object, like a part of the thing that's like separable, like a lid to a box, it's totally okay to make that a separate object in Maya. The person who taught me how to do 3D modeling in Maya would have never let me do that. He was of the opinion that everything should like be sculpted out of one mesh, and I think, well, he came from the film industry, and I think in that maybe in that regard, and for animation purposes, that's probably better practice. But for the purpose of this class, that's totally fine to have separate objects. If you have two separate objects and you want to combine them into one mesh, there's a, well, sort of. If you combine them into one object in Maya, if you select them both, you can use the combine tool, which is right here. Now, if we see this thing, it's one thing, right? I can't select the lid separately anymore. They are now part of p cube 3, which is a combination of the three of them, of the two of them, right? I'm going to undo that. You can also undo that by using the extract tool, which basically does the opposite of combining, right? So now they're separate things again. Okay, cool. Let's talk about a couple other tools you might be using while you're modeling. I'm going to go ahead and go in here. I'm going to add a little ribbon to the box. So I know I said Minecraft chest before, but it is the holiday season while I'm recording this, so we can imagine this is instead some sort of gift box. I'm gonna go back to the modeling toolkit. I'm gonna select the edges here, so the 4 edges here around the box, and I'm gonna use a tool called the connect tool, which connects different things, right? So I'm gonna hit connect. I already had this set, but it defaults to one segment. So you can see that it has connected all 4 things with an edge loop. But I want 2 because I want this sort of faces that I can use to turn into a ribbon. So there you go. So I set the segments down here. It occurs to me that, okay, good, you guys can't see it. I tried making myself smaller in OBS to accommodate that. But if I change this to 3, for example, that's how many subdivisions it puts in. I'm going to use 2. Okay, so I'm going to hit Q to confirm that. Check that out. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did before with the lid in the last video. I'm going to select all 4 of these, and I'm going to extrude them. So again, you could do that by going up here to the extrude thing or pressing Control E, and then I'm going to bump up the thickness to. Oof, it's going to be kind of hard to get. I think in this case, actually, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to use the handles. So you can do a little more minute adjustments there. Cool. Cool. So we can imagine that thing is like a ribbon now that goes around there. Cool. And then the final thing I'm going to show you is the bevel tool. This is really useful. So far, everything we've been doing has been boxes, right? The bevel tool allows us to give things a little more smoothness, a little roundness at the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the edges on the bottom. I'm going to imagine this is some sort of weird box that has bevels on the bottom for some reason. In the modeling toolkit, I'm going to hit the bevel button. So that's down here. Click that. Again, we have all these tool options here. I'm going to talk about each of these. The fraction is basically how big the bevel is. So if I have this like way up, this thing starts looking like some sort of like magical pyramid or something. I'm going to put it at 0.1. The segments is how basically how smooth that's going to be, right? So if it's one segment, it basically, it just adds like 145-degree angle bevel to it. But if I increase that, we can see this thing becomes rounder and rounder because it adds, more divisions. Makes that each, let me see if I can get a thing. Each of those is like a smaller degree, so it's a smoother transition. Depth, I don't know if we need to talk about that. Let me go back down to one segment. Yeah, none of this other stuff you need to really worry about. But those are the main two. So now I've had this little bevel. I'm sorry, I'm all turned around. Let me rotate. I hope you're not getting like motion sick watching me doing this. Okay, so that's pretty good. The last thing I'm going to do is, because I've done all that stuff, let me show you this object. If we select the object, Maya is like a very complex, like computational program. So if we look at this, each operation that I did on this cube has been saved by Maya, and I can change it. So if I look at, let's see, I did the bevel, right? So I can still change the options I chose in the bevel. I can it saves that in what's called the history. So this extrude I did on the ribbon, right? I can change the values of that. Still, let me see if there's a good one I can change the translate Z on that. Okay, cool. So those are all saved, and you can edit all of them. But as you keep working on the model, and obviously you're going to be doing more complex stuff than the model I'm making here. The history of the object becomes pretty intense. And it can slow down Maya because it's saving all of these operations. So what you can do is you can go to, and what you should do pretty regularly in Maya is go to Edit. So in the Edit menu up top, go to Edit, Delete by Type, History. By default, that only does it for the objects you have selected. You can also do Delete All by Type History, and that'll do every object in the scene. Cool. That's about all I got for this video. So thanks for watching. I will see y'all in the next one.